for
Let's
having
kick it
a
off.
litter.
So, Cage, welcome back to our weekly fractional episode sponsored by Collectable. And we'll get into all the data, but you were at a card show today.
Yep.
Honestly, man, I don't know if you're getting this vibe. It seems like there's more and more and more card shows popping up all over the country.
Yeah. I mean, and it's funny, man, because, I'm at the show today. I bring Ian, I brought money. We didn't bring too many cards. And I play a role. It's an interesting one. It's a different one. My dad used to like going to Disney World, and when I go, I'm running around like a crazy person trying to get my kids on rides and stuff. And he would go and walk around Main Street and almost like people watch. It was a little weird, but like just take it in. He was a little slower. He wasn't running around getting on rides. He had fun while he was there. I was doing more like let's call it like a people watching, just because I like to pay attention, get a pulse in the market, see what people are bringing in, see what the dealers are doing, see what's going on, because it kind of gives me a pulse of the hobby itself.
For sure. Are people buying? Are people selling? What are they buying? What are they selling? Are they paying over comps? Are they haggling and negotiating a lot? 1,000%.
So what was interesting about this, it had me thinking back to our episode with the one we did this week with Prism God. And we were talking about like how he goes to shows and goes all over the place. And what I said was, how it's interesting to go to, you go to shows, I'm not loving going to shows, but it's because I'm going to the same show over and over again. And while he went to Hofstra and found the one-of-one card that it was like, wow, I love this card. Like I had seen that card a bunch of times. Like what's stale for me might not be stale for somebody who's coming in from Atlanta or, so I guess maybe the secret is I should be flying all over the country to look at everybody else's cards. You know what I mean? So, but yeah,
well, it's Cage, your strategy has changed.
Very much.
I mean, like you were, correct me if I'm wrong. You were go to these shows, look for bargains of raw cards, add them to your monthly bulk sub, send them to PSA, use that money as profit to buy and upgrade into nice cards.
Yep.
Rinse and repeat, right?
Correct.
And now, because you don't have that profit kind of baked in with the grading of the cards, you're way more like a sniper, waiting for the perfect deal, the perfect card to pop up. You're not buying just anything to flip.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. What I go to these shows for is completely different now than what it was when I went, not that long ago. It was very different, right? I used to be looking, like you said, for lower end stuff. But why I changed is not just my collecting strategy, it's what you can do with it, right? And what's funny is it's the same as the dealers, right? So, you walk around the show and, dealers aren't buying that much stuff from people. People are coming in with raw because they're opening stuff still, and they're coming in with raw stuff, and it's not, the dealers look at it kind of like, you hold your nose and maybe you find a bargain in there. So some guy pulled out like a LaMelo red wave kind of thing out of one guy's raw box, and was looking it over with a magnifying glass to see if it was something he could grade himself, obviously. But the dealers don't want raw. And what's funny is the people who have graded, they're handing over the exact same graded that the person has a showcase full of, right? It's the same Morant Mosaic rookies. It's the same Keldon Johnson section. It's the same Tatis. It's the same stuff. And, Ian and I actually were outside with, let me see if I remember the guy's name, Card Kings _ Connecticut. CT, there you go. You got a shout out, pal. And he had just the case, and he coming from Connecticut, and he his case was basically exactly what you would think a case of graded would look like that was sent in November of last year. It just got back this week, and you bring it to a show to try to unload on folks. You know what I mean? Like a whole bunch of Prism basketball from 19, some Zion, some Ja, some Trae.
What were people saying about Zion?
I was trying to get a Zion Prism Silver today, but
Nice.
What people were saying were that they're in it for so much. They could have sold it for X, and they don't want to get rid of it. There's a lot of that, like that, and the people who are holding Zion said exactly the same thing over and over again, which is this: yes, he may not be a generational talent. Yes, he may not be the guy who is going to come out and score 40 a game for 20 straight years, but at some point in time, he will play. His foot and everything will be strong enough for him to come back, whether it's next season or whatever it is. And at that moment, I'm going to be able to sell this card for way more than I sell it for now. So I just take it and put it back in my case. I'm telling you what people are saying, right?
Let's talk about that. That seems like very flawed logic. And it actually breaks one of my, I'm developing rules or principles as I age, as I get more experience. And cutting losses quickly, I think, is so valuable because the issue there isn't that, okay, yeah, in a year Zion comes back and he plays and you can sell it for more. One, you're hoping that his health checks out. But two, you're also kind of hoping that the market checks out, right? Because you don't know what a year from now the market looks like. So that's interesting. And what were they going for?
Well, the couple of people who had him were in the mid twos, 23 to 2300-ish, you know?
It's a bit high.
Which I was like, yeah, I mean, that's not that far from where it was. You know, the scary thing is, so Ian pulled a silver, and we graded it ourselves and got a 9. And I remember, you know, valuing the case of Ian's collection. Smart kid, sold most of his stuff, you know. But the Zions he pulled, so, you know, it's all right. It's a cool thing. Let me hold on to the 9. You know, I remember when that 9 was 4 figures. Remember that 9 was, you know, 1250, 1350. You know, and we're adding up the value of his collection. We're like, wow, look at this thing. You know, I saw several 9s sitting in cases, 650, and no one even like asking about them. You know, so it's an interesting thing, man. It really is. You're right, because there's a lot of variables, the hobby, you name it, and you know what will change. But what's funny is it made me think about coming home and doing this episode about how, you know, people's palettes change and people's, you know, collecting habits change. And that, you know, there were some items there that were these wow kind of items. Our pal Hoodie Allen had a table there. Pretty cool, right? You know, see him at Bleecker pretty often. You know, he and Ian were hanging out, and Ian was telling him dad jokes, bad ones. And, you know, to Hoodie's credit, he was being a good sport. But, you know, he's sitting there with, you know, LeBron, Kobe, Chrome Refractor, you know, PSA 10, just sitting there, you know, the one with where LeBron's guarding Kobe. And what else did he have?
And he's into that one for too much too, right? Because that one peaked at, what was it?
Joe Namath Green 101 Kaboom. Yeah, I had to tell him, I'm like, listen, there's
Jersey
an audience.
match.
It's Jersey match, exactly. He said the same thing. I said, there's an audience for Kaboom, and there's an audience for Namath. I'm not exactly sure they overlap. He goes, yes, I'm the overlap. He says, I love Namath and I like Kaboom. I'm the only guy. I had to have it. You know, so it's pretty funny to see a Namath 101 Kaboom. Right?
I actually think Namath rookies are an interesting play. I'm surprised that we've done 525 episodes. It's the first time bringing him up because, I mean, Broadway Joe. How come we don't talk about him more?
He wasn't that good of a quarterback. I mean, that's serious. He wasn't that good.
Frankly, it was just that simple.
Yeah, I mean, he was
Compare him to a modern day Tannehill?
No. I mean, let's see. Is there a modern day? No. So what made Namath awesome? It's sort of Bradshaw-y also, right? What made him, you know, great was the personality. You know, the fur coat, the brashness, the Minshew? You know, the. I mean, Minshew was. I mean, Namath was obviously better than Minshew. You know, Namath was a college star, and he was a star, and he won a Super Bowl. But he was. You know who might be a good one, except the personalities are exactly opposite. Eli Manning. You know what I mean? Like a 500 quarterback. Right, like, but think of like Eli with a personality, right? Like not Eli's like a wet blanket, but that type of quarterback, right? Like borderline Hall of Famer because he won a Super Bowl. Has a good
personality. Cage.
Yeah, I mean,
he's on the Monday.
He's coming out better in the Monday night stuff, but he was like, you know, he was like, you know, the opposite, right? So I mean, Namath was Bradshaw was the same kind of deal, right? You know, Namath, if you look at his stats, he wasn't that great of a QB. And there were definitely better quarterbacks playing at the time. But you know, he's got the story, right? He's got the, you know, the win. He's got the upset win, the big one against the Colts, right? And so that's the deal with him, right? So he's more of the, you know, you can make a movie out of him more than the you know, the actual stats that are behind him. You know, there's no personality to compare him to today, you know, in today's NFL that I can think of. But anyway, the point was, you know, it had me thinking. Like there was one card I held today that if the auto was better, I might have made a run at it. Bless you, buddy. It wasn't numbered though. It was I think it was '06 exquisite LeBron auto with a cool, gear patch, like a smaller gear patch in it. The Cleveland jersey, like multiple colors. The auto was really dull. Like you could tell the auto had faded already over time, which is sad. I think it was like a 7 was the auto grade on it, in a thick case, like real nice, like the kind of card you don't hold too often. And I had not seen that one at that show previously. I scan every table. I like to see if there's anything new, kind of hiding in the corner and that kind of stuff. And that
you're not an auto patch guy either.
No, but those kind of cards, why we talk about them here? I mean, why those are the kind of cards you just don't see, especially the ones in high grade, and they're the ones that right now all of the people. So, we think we've done great. I know I've done great in the hobby for me, right? But I say this all the time. I started in the bottom. Now we're here, right? I started in the bottom of this, right? Like I started in the bottom of the pyramid with $1 cards, $2 cards, $3 cards, flipping them, right? Whether it was Andre Drummond for $2, the Prism 2012, the Paul Pierce's, those 2012 bases of baseball, football, basketball, whether it was, buying the 2018, base Prism rookies, whether it was buying De'Aaron Fox, Klay Thompson rookies, and just grading and flipping and moving up to where I think, there's probably 5 levels in the food pyramid of the hobby. If I'll go through them all if you like. While I was in the bottom, and maybe I've managed to move myself up to the second higher level, right? Where I can now play in cards that are, five figures, right? And comfortably do that. There were people who, while I was middling in that bottom, were in that 5-figure range. Because of the rising tide we talk about, those folks, very few, they're a level above. And they're now playing in the 6-figure cards, right? And
give us some names and cards that those guys are playing on. Brady, LeBron.
Oh yeah. So let's think about it. Just the cards moved also, right? So a perfect example is, you could look it up if you like, but like, what's a Brady SP Authentic PSA 10 sell for? There's probably a bunch of comps on that one, card ladder wise, and the whole deal. But I remember when I got back into this, that was a card that I liked. I was thinking I'll buy it because it's numbered, and I like Brady. I never really jumped on Brady because of my hatred for him, because I'm a Raider fan and being a New Yorker and the whole deal. But that card was like $4,000 when I came back into the hobby, right? And I'm pretty sure, I think there's one on Collectable, right? I think there's one here, right? So I mean, that card depends on when you're looking at it. It's over $50,000. You know what I mean? It's one of those cards that just it moved up with it over time. The LeBron Refractor is another great example, right? I tell that story all the time, right? So LeBron Chrome Refractor PSA 10. In 2018, I passed on one in favor of a similarly priced Aaron Judge auto, Heritage Red Ink, high number, PSA 10, that there were 12 of in PSA 10, and went with that one because it was $400 cheaper. Well, the Judge, I have no idea what it's worth, probably less than what I paid, but that LeBron was over $100,000 in its high, and now it sells for like 70, 75, something like that. Shoot,
the Brady SP Authentic out of 1250.
Yeah.
It's like, so 99 PSA 10s. Yeah. The last one sold in September 19th. It hasn't sold in a while.
And how much was it? Close to $100,000? Yeah.
114 on PWCC.
Yep.
Right before that, though, in August 22nd, one sold for 34, but I on Heritage. I can't imagine that's accurate.
Yeah. No, so I mean, but that should tell you, right? I mean, even people who are just buying those those cards for $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $10,000, they're now playing at a completely different level. You sell that one, and you're talking about your exquisite. You're talking about, and then even the level above, you're talking about people who a couple years ago bought a LeBron exquisite, auto out of 99, the RPA. Those were $100,000 to $200,000. Obviously, that was not the sport that I was playing. Not the same game, sport, anything. I was buying cards for a couple bucks, but there were people who were in it buying that kind of card at that point in time that are now selling it for 7 figures, right? There's levels to this stuff. And the unfortunate part is, and we've talked about this, and I guess, where something like Collectable or Fractional comes in, and I think it will play a big role in the going forward in 2022, is it's a way to be able to still play on that bottom, the bottom level money wise, actual investment into it. But instead of putting your investment money with, even though it was only $2 cards, I was buying 100 of them, right? So that's $200 times 5 players. That's $1,000. So if you're looking to invest $1,000 in a month, right? You know that you can't buy Klay Thompson base cards for $5 or $10 anymore, and then grade them and get them next month or in 2 months. And what happens is those slabs, those base slabs, your Morants, they're not really something you want to invest that $1,000 in right now anyway, right? So instead, what I think people are doing is that high level, that money that has been made, they're all chasing these real, rare museum piece type stuff, and that's where fractional works, right? Because you on the bottom with that $1,000 to invest can still invest in those iconic pieces, those museum pieces, at the money that you would have otherwise potentially, been buying a 2012 Prism or something like that base card, and you're still in it buying those real investable pieces that people are continuing to try to go after and fight over.
Makes sense. All right.
Shoot.
Let's get into the data and we'll kind of riff from there.
Yep.
So one of the first things that stuck out. So the indices, so the memorabilia was down 5%. Sports cards were up 1%, relatively flat, but baseball ticked up at 1%, football ticked up. But here's the kicker. Golf was up 7%. On the news that Tiger Woods is back playing with his son in the PNC Championship. You saw that?
I did. I saw that.
So his SP Authentic went up 28%. Does that continue to run?
So I doubt it, because if you actually listen to his press conference, what he said was he's going to play this, but he's not in a position right now to come back in full or anything close to in full. So anybody who thought that he was going to be, chasing titles and playing every week and that you'd see Tiger Woods winning, tournaments, that's probably not going to be the case. He even said, look, he was lucky that he's, walking again. He doesn't know how the full 18 holes is going to go. He was doing this with a kid. Obviously, it's a great way to get back into it. But he basically, made a statement that, he's going to get back into it and he can probably try to ramp up his training for specific events, read into that majors, which is really all everybody cares about at this age. But we may be seeing that final chapter of Tiger Woods before he's off into the sunset. You know what I mean? And
I'm with you, man. It's really hard to regain greatness, right? Especially when you were great at such a young age. This is going to be a funny comparison, but Macaulay Culkin, right? Lindsay Lohan. It's funny, but you pick up what I'm putting down.
How about Haley Joel Osment, the kid from The Sixth Sense? We just saw him in a TV show the other day. What's the vampire show we watched called, buddy? What We Do in the Shadows. My man over here, he knows everything. And then I'm like, wait, that's the kid from The Sixth Sense. He ballooned up, man. He looks like me.
It's interesting because when you have so much success at such a young age, right? It's hard to know. I mean, none of us have experienced that, so it's hard to know what that's like. But I wouldn't be surprised if Tiger not only doesn't win another major, which a lot of people thought, he might win more majors. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't, play it in any more. He'll be in competitive tournaments, but I if he's not near the top for those tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, that brings out the best talent. He's going to be against the best talent. And these, you have people who are half his age, who are healthy, who are, playing at a high level, who are playing every week. It's very difficult to expect even, one of the greatest golfers of all time to go out there and compete. But I never bet against Tiger. Never bet against Tiger because, he's done some amazing things coming back and winning. I'm just not going to bet with him. You know what I mean? I think it's great. I think, he's got a legacy. And that's not to say that, his cards won't have value. I love that he's coming out and playing with his son. If people are going to give LeBron credit for going to stick around in the league long enough to play with his son, well, why the hell not with, a Tiger, playing these championships with, with his son. That's cool stuff also. And, it's humanizing. He's definitely had some villain moments. He's definitely had a heel turn or three in his in his playing career. So it's nice to see this side of him. I think, that may actually add to his fan base a little bit. So who knows? And lightning strike, man. Like I said, he's not a guy I would bet against.
Let's keep rocking. So did you watch – I know you were busy today. Did you watch the Bucks-Bills game?
Yep.
Brady looked impressive. They let him get back in. They let the Bills to get back into it, went to overtime, touchdown to win the game. 2 cards of his were up this week. I mean, Brady's cards are going to run Let me ask you: do you think Brady's cards will continue to run? And let me give you some data to support this. So,
Shoot.
the BGS 10, the Bowman Chrome Pristine, 30% this week, which basically kind of erased the losses of the previous 3 weeks. And the Brady Contenders Basket up another 8%, and that's been up 8% the week before, up 2%. Does that continue to run as playoffs approach? Do we have another 1, 2, or 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think those are, it's incremental, a couple of percent here and there as the team continues to win. He'll probably go up again this week because, he got his 700th touchdown pass in this game here, which is, every time he sets a record, it does something no one else has done, right? So, he's
probably the most likable superstar, right, in today's day and age, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, listen, he came out.
Brady wasn't always beloved.
No.
Brady was kind of hated for a while, actually.
Listen, I mean, they were the evil empire. I mean, they really were, and there gets a point where people, if you win too much, you become hated. The Yankees in the end of the 90s, it was easy to hate that Yankees team, right? Where it was just like, oh, you get tired of watching them win every year. It's like, come on, bring somebody else on. And, Brady kind of fell into that, where people were like anybody but Brady type of thing, But he's doing it for a long time now. You got to give credit to, longevity. People realize, and listen, we say what we want about LeBron, same kind of thing. Playing at a high level for as long as they've played, that's hard to do. It shows, a dedication to, their craft. It shows dedication to the sport, to themselves, right? I mean, I can't even go 3 days without eating Chick-fil-A. These guys are like locking themselves in hyperbaric chambers. And, Brady hasn't seen a gluten in like 10 years. I don't even know what the hell gluten is. But, whatever it is, he doesn't eat it. So, you have to respect the game. And I'll tell you, I think a lot of it is that people have made money. People continue to make money in this, and there's always that search for flight to quality when there's an uncertain market, right? People don't know what's going on with the hobby. People know what's going on with the market. You got, so much uncertainty on the horizon. The transfer over to Fanatics, that's coming in the coming years. We don't know what 2022 is going to bring. Everybody's got their theories. Is the gold rush going to continue? Is it going to drop down to tier 2 cards? What's going to happen with PSA going back? The constant there, the steady there is, if you've made money, you can buy Brady, because Brady can lose the rest of the games this season. And it's going to stop his cards from going up because people are starting to bake in that he might win a Super Bowl this year. But there's only so much. The floor on Brady is, it's a pretty safe place to kind of store your value, as you like to say, right? So I think that's why you're seeing these things kind of go.
And LeBron, we don't know what's going to happen with the Lakers. And if he's going to win another championship. Curry, they had a great start, but I still think people aren't believers in the Warriors. I think people still think Brady's a 1, 2, or 3 to win the Super Bowl. Let's go Mahomes real quick. So we're going to keep rocking. They kind of look like they've righted the ship. We talked about it on our Whatnot show. Early in the season, their defense and their offense looked terrible. Then their offense got a little bit more, but their defense got better. Now, today, the offense looked good. The defense looked good. Are they kicking into gear? Is Mahomes probably the best dip buy opportunity right now?
I don't buy Mahomes.
You still don't?
No, I still don't buy Mahomes. I just think there's a lot of average to below average teams right now. I don't think, and there are good teams, and I don't think the Chiefs are one of the top 5 teams in the NFL. What you saw with Buffalo today, I mean, who knows what would have, that's another good matchup for them. I think the Bucs are better. I think Arizona is probably better. The AFC, maybe New England. I mean, they'll be there. They're 9-4 now. They're still only a game ahead of the Chargers, but Chargers have, also tremendous deficit. But they beat the Raiders. I mean, if you listen to us on the Whatnot show, I told everybody the Raiders are terrible. And the Raiders gave them a gift. They fumbled immediately.
They fumbled like 6 times, it looked like.
Chiefs are up 7-0 and just never look back. I mean, the Raiders are just not a good team. They don't have a good offense. They don't have a good defense. And it wasn't so much that, look, their offense. I think in this run here where Mahomes has righted the ship, he has 9 touchdowns and 3 interceptions, which is great for Kirk Cousins. It's great for Ryan Tannehill. It's great for most quarterbacks. But Mahomes is a guy who's supposed to have 3 interceptions the whole season. He's a guy who's supposed to have 4 touchdowns a game and 1 interception over a 3-game stretch. It's not supposed to be. So if that's righting the ship 9-3 over a stretch, that's I still have my worries, right? And Kelsey was invisible today again, which I don't know if he's lost a step or if teams are just taking him out of the game plan. I think he had 2 catches. Maybe they didn't have to throw the ball as much because they just got out to such a huge lead. But yeah, I mean, I'm not a buyer of the Chiefs. I just think that a lot of the teams in the league are bad, and they are winning the games they're supposed to win. I know that's probably not a take that people want to hear because everybody has money invested in Mahomes. But the interesting thing is, so Darren Ravel, I don't know if you saw Dana White took a shot at him last night, in a press conference as well. But at halftime, when Tampa was up tremendously, Darren reposted the golden auction buy of Josh Allen, record price $200,000 for the National Treasure RPA, and it was like, how would you feel to be the guy holding this right now? And then all of a sudden the Bills came back and, it's overtime. Like people are like, hey, I don't feel so bad. I would, what if he wins this game? Think about that. Think of how the swings week to week in the NFL, right? On a play here or there. What if the Bills came back and won? Would Josh Allen's cards fly this week? Are his cards going to drop this week because they lost this game, even though they came back and probably, coin flip next time they play? Who knows what winds up happening?
I think we know what Josh Allen is. I think we know that this Bills team is not going to get to the AFC Championship. I think they're not going to get to the Super Bowl. Well, I think that's what the market thinks.
See, that's funny, man, because the Brady side, wow, you got a runner. The Brady side, the NFC, I don't think anybody buys the Rams yet. And I don't think anybody buys Kyler Murray yet. I think everybody's like Brady is the de facto, favorite. But on the AFC side, I think what holds me back on some of these guys is you could see Mac Jones in New England. You could see that New England team, the defense of New England carry him there and being the representative. As a matter of fact, I think, in the index this week, that was the most likely Super Bowl. New England against Tampa Bay, which talk about storylines for the Super Bowl, right? Belichick versus Brady in the Super Bowl with, the new Brady, the new out of shape quarterback, right? So, but it could be Mac Jones. It could be Mahomes. It could be Herbert. It could be Josh Allen. Just can't be all of them. You know what I mean? And I've been saying this since the first week, right? The AFC has all these young QBs, and everybody's betting on their guy to be the one that gets to the Super Bowl, but all of them can't get there. The trade deadline passed. Kansas City can't trade for Herbert, and Josh Allen. They can't all be on the Chiefs, So it's an interesting thought, man, because there is a lot of money in a lot of these guys, and we'll see what happens. It's gonna be a fun couple weeks.
Let's go vintage. So you own the card that's in this box. So the 1986 Fleer Wax box. It's been kind of getting crushed the last 5 weeks, down 25%, which is a lot for Wax. You saw it bounce back. 9% this week. There was Robert Edward auction.
Yep.
And
that's what did it.
At 270, even though this one, the one on Collectable, has a market cap of 205. I think if there's one card that moves the market more than any, it's the Jordan PSA 10.
So there were also, just so you know, on this one, there were also some comps, and I don't know whether they're accurate or not, of other cards at PSA 10. The ones that you talk about that are rare, like Johnny Moore, and there's a couple of other ones, even the checklist, where people try to put together the set, and those cards sell for 5 figures. I'm telling you, like Johnny Moore. Ones that they are like double digits for PSA 10. Dominique Wilkins, last time I checked, was like 90-something PSA 10s. So that also does drive the box price on these things because that's one of those sets that people build. Usually you'll see a set of these, in a big auction. PSA 10 set, PSA 9 set, you name it, the whole deal. So, the Jordan is obviously the key, like the Charizard is. But, when you buy a box of Pokemon first edition, the Zard's great, but there are other cards in there that carry a heck of a lot of money too. You wouldn't mind getting a Chansey. It's still gonna help you out. But the line on that one is that box was in the ones, right? It was 100 and change, and REA sold at 270. So, that opened up a lot of eyes. That was a huge delta between what a recent comp was and what it was selling for on here.
Last two, all right?
Mhm.
Magic Bird Logo Man.
Love
Just
it.
running, up 50% in the last 3 weeks. Up
Yep.
again 15% this week. I love Logo Mans, man. I think Logo Mans are the coolest cars there are.
Yep. So it has become the thing to chase after. I saw Ken Golden post one, a Kobe Gold Logo Man on Twitter, where, hey, this is going to be posted. So I think the only time that there was a gold Logo Man was his rookie year. So even though the card wasn't from his rookie year, obviously they got this jersey patch from rookie year. This is just the Logo Man is the chase now. It is the thing that people are going after. It's the card everybody wants. It's what signifies the ultimate chase in any of these products. So, and to have Magic Bird, somebody was asking me about Magic the other day, and it's one of the few cards that I would say, if I were getting a Magic, I would try to get something with Bird on it too. Those two guys they're just linked, right? In video games against each other, Magic Bird, on their rookie card. And they just were like, even if you look at top 10 lists of all time players, Magic Bird are usually 7, 8, or 8, 9 interchangeably. They just seem to, come into the league and just, be joined at the hip no matter what. So, and that card kind of tells that story. It's like the best shoot.
Before I get to the final and wrap up the data, Bill Russell was auctioning off some of his collection. Any thoughts on that? Is there any provenance to the Bill Russell rookie card that Bill Russell owned? Do you think that should demand a premium?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're a fan and you're going to be spending that kind of money, the fact that it was something that he owned or the fact that it's got an extra little tie to it, it probably does bump a premium on it. I mean, you've seen that kind of stuff in auction titles, right? The Jim Brown rookie owned by Gary V. You know what I mean? I bought this from Gary V. If it's a little extra story.
I bought it from Cage Lawyer.
Yeah, that's what he should have said. That's where it came first. But yeah, I mean, it definitely does. It's a cool thing. Once it's further and further removed, it's not as big of a deal, right? But yeah, I mean, if I were the person buying that, when I tried to resell it down the road, I would have that. I'd have something lined up for that, keep the auction stuff and say, look, this is where I got it. Look, it's Bill Russell's own card, that kind of stuff. You definitely would want to, keep that as part of your storytelling when you're trying to move the card yourself.
Last card, probably the card with the most potential, still has some opportunity here. So the 33 Ruth Goudey SGC 8, up 30% this week.
Yep.
Now it has a market cap of $240K. Heritage just sold one for $288,000.
You've been talking about this one. You've been talking about this one every
card.
week for the last 3 weeks. You've been talking about that Heritage one, 288, and you're saying, guys, get on this one. It was in the hundreds. It finally went up significantly this week, and it's still lower than that comp was. We've talked about how not every 8 is the same, but SGC. There's one thing we can say: it's for vintage cards. I'd put an SGC vintage against anybody. SGC, they know what they're doing when it's vintage cards. You've seen some of the most expensive vintage cards, if not the most expensive vintage cards in SGC holders. So, nothing wrong with that at all. And yeah, I mean, that one, it took some time. We've talked about that. I think this is the third straight week now we've talked about that. So it's not a surprise to me. And that falls right into the bucket of blue chip, right? It falls right into the bucket of people will always know Babe Ruth. People always know that name, and there's only so many cards that are almost 90 years old and are in basically mint condition, right? An SGC 8 is pretty close to a mint condition card. That's a Babe Ruth. That's 90 years old. It's pretty crazy. Obviously, that's going to carry some value to it, and it's something that you would imagine is going to maintain value and probably grow in value over time. What about hockey, man? Tale of two stories, right? So you had the buyout on Ovechkin, right?
Yep.
Right. Originally, we were offered 40,500, and the buyout on that one, a $55,000 buyout was accepted on that one, right? it's interesting, right? Because the Crosby Cup basket had an offer of 200,000 that was rejected, but that came down this week. It's got a market cap of 170 now. You think maybe people seeing the 55,000 for Ovechkin might actually have some impact on this one to the upside? It's clearly people spend the money on hockey.
How can Crosby be? Well, I guess it's a basket. I don't know hockey, man. I really don't. I can't speak on it. I don't even know how you compare Crosby and Ovechkin. Who's better? What cards do you go for? I would struggle putting that much money into either one of those guys.
Ovi is pretty awesome. And, he's one of these guys that doesn't train, and he just goes out and drinks beers and says, I'm going to do this for as long as it takes to break all records. So I just, that's the kind of guy I'll bank on.
But he's not marketable, and he's not going to be
it depends how much marketability to, right? It depends who you're marketing to. I mean, hockey overall, who's marketable in hockey?
No one.
So, and yet still, I read that is.
Let me clarify what I mean by that.
Shoot.
If you saw these guys walk into a bar, you wouldn't even know. I guarantee you 80%.
Yeah, but you can say that. You can say that for a majority of NFL players also. I mean, there are some quarterbacks that you would know who it was, but correct. I'll bet you, unless somebody pointed it out to you, Baker Mayfield probably would put a trucker hat on and sit right next to you at a bar and you wouldn't even know.
Yeah, nice dig at Baker. I agree. And,
like dig at Baker.
I totally agree. And I think that's why he's not cardboard relevant along with his terrible performance.
Well, I mean, he's not Babe Ruth, right? He's not that. But, I mean, Josh Allen, you might not even know. I mean, he's tall, so you probably – but, I mean, I get what you're saying. I think the better, more paint with a broad brush, and no offense intended for hockey fans out there.
None at all.
Our brothers in Canada, especially, who text me a lot and tell me buy Ovechkin because he's awesome. I read an article this week that said surveys in the United States are saying that, based on the responses given, soccer has passed hockey as the number 4 sport in popularity in America.
That's been the case forever.
I mean, like this was, this like an ESPN, like a major one. I've seen TV ratings ones where they say that, but TV ratings are different analysis. Because
soccer's bigger than baseball.
Soccer, not in America. Not in America. And that's different because soccer TV ratings are because there's not that many games that get televised in America, so they get bigger viewership. Whereas baseball games during the baseball season, there's 1 billion games on during the season. But I'm talking about like actual popularity. This is a recent phenomenon. P.S. NYCFC. They beat Portland. Took home a little MLS Cup. Hey now. Well, I told you, NYCFC. I follow those lunatics.
To me, it's NBA, NFL, and then soccer's third. Baseball's fourth.
You're a soccer player. Baseball, so the thing is, baseball, why it has a total.
I would say UFC is bigger than baseball.
No, UFC is a niche sport right now. It has a fan base, but anybody over the age of 50 doesn't watch it, and everyone over the age of 50 watches baseball still. And that's why baseball is tough. Now, baseball is dwindling because of that, because every day a fan of baseball dies. So, and they're not replenishing. They're not replenishing that. They're not. They're not refilling that fan supply on the younger side.
That's a good point. I'm curious, like if because fandom takes into consideration everybody, up to the age of 80.
Yep.
But how many, true baseball fans are there under the age of 45?
Not that many.
How many true hockey fans are there under the age of 45?
Well, it depends where you are. Right, I know a lot. And this is no by me.
This is no.
We live in the shadow of Nassau County. We live, the Icelanders.
Hockey is as tough a sport as it comes. I'm just talking about straight popularity. By the way, did you guys see that clip? You probably go to ESPN and see it. Snoop was announcing the LA. I don't know the team out of LA. The Knights? No, LA Kings. He was at the LA Kings game and he was color commentating the game, and it was hilarious. Snoop Dogg just lives his best life, man. He's coming out with an NFT. He bought land in the metaverse. He's color commentating games. He's on Joe Rogan. He's coming out with new albums.
So can I ask you something?
Sure.
So 2 things that kind of stuck out at me, and then we can go through the IPOs and that kind of stuff. What did you think of Kevin Durant molesting Trae Young the other night?
That was weird, but he went off tonight. He put up 51 tonight against the Pistons without Harden. But that was weird, man.
It was
Anthony
odd, right?
Anthony Davis had that meme too just the other week with like him like almost kissing the you saw that one?
Yeah, I mean, it was very weird. I don't know if you have the ability to do this, but I mean, I watched that game and listen, I love Durant. I think Durant's an assassin now. I was not a Durant guy. I watch him play pretty often. His game is crazy. I didn't even know he scored 50 today. You know, and I love the Durant, you know, refractor that's there. I think that the Nets, Harden, you know, plays at all. Remember, the Nets were, you know, a toe on the line away from potentially beating, you know, the Bucks, and that was without Kyrie and with hobbled Harden, right? So you got to figure, you know, the Bucks have actually taken a step back. They lost a pretty good defender, you know, the Nets would take a step forward even without Kyrie, just to have a healthy Harden. You know, Durant is a favored, you know, to come out of the East, I would think. But I watched that Hawks game. I got to tell you, man, Trae's pretty good. I mean, Trae's pretty good. He's small, and you know he takes a little bit of a beating there, and he's not allowed to jump backwards into people. But he puts up 30 points pretty effortlessly. He finishes around the rim really good. You know, he's got a great ball control. You know, shoots the three, shoots the two. You know, commands the team, commands the defense. You know, doesn't let anybody push him around, even though he's small. And you know, he just kind of flows through the game. Nobody's ever going to say he's out of shape, a la Luka, Zion, you name it, the whole 9 yards. He plays within himself. I haven't really seen him get crazy injuries. You know, he doesn't have that John Morant hops where he's trying to like take the rim and the backboard and the stanchion off every time he dunks it and land on his ankle the wrong way. You know, he's small and you think there's probably a risk of injury because of that, but you know, he seems pretty durable. He's putting up points, he's putting up stats. If you had the ability to, there's the Trae Young Flawless card. You had the ability to pull that one up. That would be an interesting one to look at. It was, of all of the data, it was the one that stuck out the most to me. Especially because, I mean, I watch his game. I think the kid plays really well still. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I know basketball. I know, you know, all the craziness. But Trae Young's Flawless card that's on here. Yeah, so hold on. Let me go ahead and right over there. They only have one. Yeah, the BGS 9, the Flawless Green, right? The 18-19 Flawless Green. See that one? So it IPO'd at $10 a share.
He has you'll pull it up. Believe it or not, he has two. There's an 18 Flawless, and he has an 18-19 Flawless Green.
The green. Cool. So I don't know what happened.
He has a Flawless one with a patch, too.
Yeah, so you can look at that one also. So either one is fine, but this one specifically, the Flawless Green BGS 9, right? So I don't know what happened this week, but I try to find you guys what I consider bargains, right? Trae's having a great season. You know, he's in the top 10 in scoring, right? I mean, he's scoring 20 whatever a game. Just pull up the last month or even the last week on this one, right?
I don't understand this data. How can it be negative 107%?
So just pull up. It's not. But look at that.
Down 53% this year.
So I don't know what happened, whether it's just somebody who was in this and needed liquidity to get into something else, maybe jump into an IPO. But this is something that during its secondary, it was as low as 5.5 3 weeks ago and jumped right back up to 7.4. But before that, always been in the 9s, the 8s, the 7s, was as high as 10 just a month ago, right? And last week was $7.40. Lower than it was clearly on its, its IPO. Its IPO was $10 a share. But here's a card where it's now more than 50% down. It's less than half of what it was when it IPO'd. This is a card, you know, that if you're a Trae guy, you're not seeing a Trae Young Flawless Green. What's it numbered out of?
6.
Out of 6 Trae Young.
5. Out of 5. Sorry.
Out of 5. Excuse me. Out of 5. I think the auto got a 9 on it, if I'm not mistaken, which, you know, no one really loves. But a Trae Young Flawless Rookie auto, that's the kind of card that somebody who's a Trae Young fan, maybe they make an offer on it. What do they have the market of that now? Like $11,000, something like that? It looked like.
I mean, this is another Flawless with a patch too.
Yeah.
Also, right around the same price, 12.3.
Right. So the one with the patch auto just didn't have the same precipitous drop that this green one did this week. See what I mean?
Yep.
So it's not Trae. I mean, you look at this one week over week. This one was fine, flat, if not slightly up. So to me, that tells me there's something else going on there, right? Because, if Trae is going to have that kind of a drop to go from $7.40 to $4.83, that's got to be, I'm looking at it like, what did Trae do? Did Trae hurt himself? Did somebody just report that Trae had to shut down basketball activities because he's 300 pounds and can't, go out there and play, and they're shutting him down? No. He's going out there and having 30-point triple-doubles.
He's actually the only one of the four that isn't injured. Luke is injured right now. Zion and Ja are all injured.
So he's one who goes out there every day, puts up the points, and clearly, I don't think anybody expects them to get to the championship game this year, although it would be nice. It's one of those things where they advance a little further than they did. But if you just look at the stuff on Collectable, his other comparable cards are either flat or slightly up. This, to me, it looks like somebody trying to get out with some liquidity, right? Because you see that just fall off the chart. If I were in this stuff, and again, not, financial advice, call it whatever you like, this is one that I would look to probably have a rebound, because I don't see anything in his game, anything in what he's been doing that would justify this weekly chart, $7.40 down to $4.83. It happened a couple weeks ago again, where it dropped 4 weeks back. It closed at 8.5, went down to $5.50 the following week, and jumped right back up to $7.40. So it has a history of trading this way. And I guess if you're able to spot something like this and find it where, somebody just got out of it and ride it back up, because it shouldn't be where it is, I don't think, based on any of his actual performance. The other one, it's not something that's down per se, but it's something that was flat week over week when the other cards of his were going up. The Messi rookie basket stayed the same, where we talked about the data this week. The other Messi, the mega cracks, was up 4% last week, 4% the week before. That's starting to move. But the rookie basket itself, that has other cards in it, it stayed static week over week. When one starts to move, normally I would think the other one is. Obviously, a lot of cool soccer stuff on the horizon, World Cup and all the other fun stuff. Messi won the golden balloon or whatever the heck it's called. I'm American. I don't know how to pronounce that stuff. So, but that was another one that kind of stuck out at me. The Messi basket, just because, one Messi card is doing one of these like steady kind of slow climbs, and the other one is kind of flat. I think that one probably potentially is one to look at to kind of catch up. Those were the two, besides the million cards that we talked about already, especially that Trae. That was just one of those weird charts that was like,
I think this Hawks team has underachieved a little bit this year, but it's not like they've underachieved because of things that like are in their control. They've just had a lot of injuries. They're still a young team. You're right. Trae's the only part of that team that's consistently putting up the numbers that he needs to. And he's a gym rat, man. The guy works hard. The only issue with Trae is his little bit of his marketability. But I actually kind of like his like heel. He's like kind of the enemy, and there's a hero and a villain.
Yep.
I'm with you. Let me quickly run through the data.
The IPOs, yep.
The IPOs, 2 IPOs this week. 2 really awesome IPOs, honestly. I'm curious, guys, reach out to Collectable. I think it would be cool if they started doing F1 IPOs, right? These cards are high ticket items. Like you have Verstappen, you have Lewis Hamilton. Those are 6, 7, 8 figure, 6 figure cards. I think I don't know how you feel about F1, but if you guys are F1 fans, reach out to Collectable. Maybe they'll start IPOing those cards as well. But let me read you guys the 2 IPOs this week. So Ronaldo, 2003 Sports Mega Cracks PSA 10 insane card, 160K, $10 per share, plus 145,000 for retained equity. So it's comped at market cap 305. Here's the really cool one.
Yeah,
that one is nice. Cool. But quad auto, Magic Johnson, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, and Michael Jordan. That's insane.
Quad auto at 10.
That's insane.
$5 a share. Talk about an approachable thing. This is like exactly the type of card And look, it's a BGS 7, right? And that's just to get it slabbed and get it, authenticated and put it in a slab. But this is exactly what we're talking about, right? Like, you can go to a show a couple years ago and spend $5 on Prism 2012 cards and buy as many as you want. Or what Collectable allows you to do is put your $5 into a share of a quad auto out of 10 with Magic, LeBron, Kobe, and Michael Jordan in it.
We'll never get that again. I'm not even. It's one of those that's out of 10, but it's one of those that you might never see all 10 out there.
It's a cool card. And, sometimes the quads will have like Jordan, Kobe, LeBron, and
Derrick
Rose. Or, you know what I mean? Like Scotty Burrell.
Yeah.
You're like, why did they throw this guy in here? Paul Pierce, who he's a whole, he's a great guy. He won a championship, but this is four of the top 10 guys. You know what I mean? And the little added bonus. I mean, look, you're never going to complain about having Michael Jordan on it, but now you got 3 Lakers greats on there with Magic, now LeBron and Kobe, right? So it's a pretty cool card. It's 4 big names. And being IPO to $5 a share, you can't really beat that. Fun stuff.
We'll be back tomorrow. Love you, Luca Nation.
Thanks, everybody.